Ladies and gentlemen, to QI, where this week we're looking at ladies and gentlemen, and we have a pair of each. A decorous Cathy Lett. A descan gay Sue Perkins. A dashing Ross Noble. And adorable Alan David. So, let's listen to the ladies. Cathy goes...
3 times a lady.
Oh, well, that's Lionel, who's too old for himself. And
it's
Sue
also
goes...
libelous.
Yeah, libelous. Sue goes...
Oh, yes, it's lady night.
And lo, the gentleman. Ross goes...
I'm a man. I spell M-A-N.
Good blues harping.
No, that was me adjusting my dentures.
All right. And Alan goes...
Boys and girls come out together. The moon is shining as bright as day.
Oh, that's sweet. Now, don't forget our L series, Spend a Penny Joker. So, if you play your joker because you think that the answer to the question is something to do with the lavatory, you'll get extra points. Right, now, ladies first.
Oh, you smoothly.
Oh! Why shouldn't you have the vote?
Finally, your true colours.
We'll find out the size of your election. No, you're talking about in suffragette days what they.
Yes.
Okay.
What were the reasons advanced for women not being given the vote?
Well, I mean, it's unnecessary, isn't it? I imagine it was the aristocracy that were the most fervently against.
Oddly enough, in the days of the suffragette movement, possibly you could argue it was socialists who had the most objection, because the suffragette movement only asked for votes for property-owning women. And the socialists regarded that as deeply wrong, because they said, well, that would just stuff Parliament with even more bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want that.
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of the enemies of votes for women were...
We're women.
Were women,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
There you are. These are the women against it, and they didn't want
That's
it.
the one behind going.
I'm late! What to me?
The one behind has a hammer, which is obviously trying to suggest...
But there was sort of the Stockholm syndrome, wasn't it? That they were brainwashed. They'd been brought up to be decorative and demure, and they had this idea they had to be at home looking after the children and being domesticated and doing the home cooking. Home cooking, that place where a husband thinks his wife is.
Yes.
And also I think they were the women who thought that way. Obviously, they were also a bit brain dead because of the corsetry. Their corsets were so tight it had cut off all circulation to the brain.
Do you know where Constance Wilde, Oscar Wilde's wife, comes into this?
No.
She was a very, very leading figure in a movement which was a precursor to Votes for Women, which is called the Rational Dress Society.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
because women in Victorian eras, as you rightly say, were corseted to within an inch of their life. They could barely
And they wanted to
breathe.
loose it out.
And that's why they would faint so often in hot dinners and parties and things, balls.
But what you could do is, as the blood was cut off, you could turn them upside down. It would rush their legs, and you could have a lovely egg.
Yeah.
The 3-minute lady.
Yeah. And Constance Lloyd, then, wild as she was, very intelligent, splendid woman, she was one of the first to say, well, we should wear rational dress, you know, straight, loose clothing that doesn't constrict us. And that kind of was symbolic of a wider constriction that existed in society in terms of what they were allowed to do. And it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because women were not in engineering, we're not in politics, we're not in anything involving the colonial system. Therefore, it was said, well, but they know nothing about politics, they know nothing about, therefore they shouldn't vote. But it's because
But there should have been something when she sort of, you know, brought this up as a thing, rational dress. She should have gone, but in the future, leggings must be approached with caution. Because there's certain people who I think, if you're not fighting crime, no thanks to the Spanish.
Well, look at Spanx. Spanx are back like corsets,
Oh,
aren't they?
What-
I mean,
what
Spanx are lifesavers. They just move it around. It's basically an anatomy roulette. It's like, put them on, who knows where it'll end up?
What is a Spanx?
They're these tight pants that some women wear to hold all their little bits of flesh in. But I mean, honestly, they're contraceptive because once you get them on, you can never get them off again.
But the
They're
best
like-
thing,
yeah.
but the best thing about Spanx is if you go to a wedding and at the start of the night there's these loads of women just looking amazing, and they get a few drinks in them, have a bit of a dance, and then just boobs start appearing. Have you got leg boobs? I didn't know you could have leg boobs.
It does, it moves
You
the
just,
boob.
whoop, there's one, and then you, I've got a side boob, and then push that, and boom, right there.
Shoulder tits.
So what is it? Is this like a body tube?
Yeah.
Is it
Yes, yeah.
Wow. So, anyway, just to sort of sum up what's happening here,
Are you referring to what's happening in my Spanx right now?
the pro-suffrage movement was divided against itself. There was the suffragists
Yes.
who followed the Liberal Party, and then there were the suffragettes, as you can see there, Mrs Pankhurst being the most famous, and they believed in smashing windows, chaining themselves to railings, and in the worst possible case, Emily Davidson, we don't know whether that was deliberate or not, throwing herself in front of the King's horse and
It
dying.
looked pretty deliberate. I don't suppose she
Well,
intended
I don't
to
think she
die.
intended to die. I think she
No,
intended to
well,
stop the
The
horse.
saddest thing at the British Library, they've got her purse, and in her
Yeah,
purse
is a
is a
return
return
ticket,
ticket.
yeah.
Was she just being female and thinking, oh, it's cheaper to get the return?
Presumably, I don't know if this is true, but pre-suffrage, would women have been seen as sort of goods and chattels? So if they did something wrong, would the husband be liable?
What a fabulously good idea.
No, they
Speaking
just
as
be-
criminal
they
stock,
just be
you know.
burned, wouldn't they?
Well, burned,
Just be
that's going a
burned.
long way
They
back.
would be burnt or ducked.
That's
Or
going a
tried
very,
as
very
a
long
witch
way
or
back.
something like that.
But actually, Stephen, I don't think... It's amazing women got the vote. It's amazing they actually went out to protest because women weren't supposed to go out without a chaperone. If you did, you were seen as a prostitute. We're a couple of slappers just for being here.
I suppose the most amazing thing is those women who existed before the vote
Yeah.
who managed to achieve things. I mean, the trouble is you could name them almost on the fingers of a pair of hands, is the women who managed to break through what was not a glass ceiling, but basically a rock ceiling.
Yeah.
you know.
And they had crazy ideas. See, there was one professor who said that women shouldn't be educated and shouldn't vote because it would mean their brains would grow, and if their brains grew,
They
their
wouldn't vote for
wombs
Nigel
would shrink.
Farage.
And they wouldn't be able to give birth,
And he
yeah.
based that evidence on the fact that women who were educated didn't have children, you know,
Yeah.
mainly because we were smart enough to know that, you know, our careers would end.
He clearly didn't foresee the Katie Price scenario then.
Who said this? Nothing would induce me to vote for giving women the franchise. Said in 1905 at a
I bet it's
national
a
Churchill.
woman.
election. Valerie. Who?
Churchill.
Is the right answer.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah, he did say that. He was not, let's face it, the most liberal and progressive man when it came to empire and things like that. Marvellous as he was in all
So we will fight them on the beaches was originally something he said about women, and he just
fight them on the
modified
bitches.
women.
Oh,
Five bitches, exactly.
Well, we seem to cover that very well. The fact is, strange as it seems to us today, many women were against votes for women. Now, I've got some little toys for you to play with. What would you use them for?
Oh, hello.
You can have the blue one.
Well,
Hello? Hello?
it's a
Hello?
lovely...
Ah, you press the button. That's a very good start.
It's the world's worst rape alarm. It's a microphone and it sounds like a million voles having a heart attack.
Now you can hold them away from the mics because you're sending the audience mad. Time.
Can't turn it off!
Yes, you can. Yes, you
It's a tiny stadium audience in a... you just go, good
It seems to be
evening,
white
Wembley."
noise. This is what it's trying to do.
Oh, go on.
Oh, that's frightening.
Flush on the toilet.
Yeah.
Why is
To
the word?
replicate the sound of a flashing toilet wherever you go.
More to the point, why has Stephen got an app on his phone?
Because there is nothing I wouldn't do to make things clear for you because of my love for you all.
Is it to make people urinate after an operation or something?
Yes, it's not exactly to make people urinate. It's designed by the Japanese, for the Japanese.
Oh, to cover the sound of yourself in the toilet, you put it on.
Yes, I bet that's it.
You could have played your spender pennies here.
Oh, it could have done.
It's to cover the noise of peeing. Because Japanese are traditionally rather pee-shy, and it's called a sound princess.
Marvellous.
They're actually built into some lavatories in Japan, but these are the ones, if you don't have a built-in one. This clever little keychain gadget from Japan solves a real problem for those that are shy, namely the embarrassing sounds of our noises as we go to the bathroom. Push the button and 25 seconds of continuous sounds of a running, refilling toilet permeate the room in a natural, unobtrusive way. Masking the sounds you make.
It's just going to finish and then you hear...
Do they do another one for sort of number 2? Is the sound of sort of an avalanche or something?
You'd think so.
Press it again! Press it again!
Well, push the button again for another 25 seconds of bliss.
I've dropped it!
You mean the cubicles, didn't you? I thought you had to hang it off your downstairs.
No!
And then you stood at the urinal, just weighing. The fella next to you hears, why is there cheering coming from the... We will rock you! Imagine that, whacking off your plums.
It comes in 3 colourways. We've got 2. It comes pink with a cute little heart for the inner girl in every woman.
But this is, I don't
Do you
want...
have an inner girl?
Well, not with that in it, no.
No, you don't. Baby blue with a ribbon for that free and fresh feeling.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And a white Save the Earth unisex model for both men and women. But it's an eco-otome because it saves you having to flush the loo to disguise your noise, so you're saving water, in theory.
I took my children to the toilet today.
Yes.
19.
We all went in a cubicle together, like you do. They're 2 and 4.
Right.
And then someone went into the next door cubicle and started going about obviously some quite serious business. After about 4 minutes of this, my little girl started saying, "Ah! Oh, that stinks! Oh, it's terrible! It's really smelly in here! Oh, that's awful!"
You princess.
And I could hear the person in the next cubicle laughing.
Where was
The O2 centre on the Finchley Road.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It was me. I know the very one. Well, there's only one other thing that's vaguely connected to this, and that's the architect, Sir Edmund Beckett, the first Baron Grimthorpe. And he was considered the best locksmith of the century, and he hated it when people didn't pull the flush in his lavatory. So he set it up such that if you went into his loo and locked the door, then if you didn't flush, you couldn't get out. It was locked. Only when you flushed did it unlock the door. Isn't that brilliant?
That is quite brilliant.
Yeah. And maybe, for the ladies' sake, it would be the same if you lifted the seat or lowered it rather than lifted it. Which is it you like? I always
Well, we
forget.
like it where you do the wee in the whole bit.
Oh, really?
That's what we like, as opposed to
That never
way
occurred to me.
round. Just the rest of the toilet. Anywhere to the toilet.
Takes all the fun out of it.
Who made the ladies' toilet? Was it George Bernard Shaw?
I think he definitely was the one who pushed for it, as it were.
Previously, there have been lots of public conveniences for men, but never for women because it was thought rather
Women didn't wee.
inappropriate
Well,
for women to
Of
go,
course it's
you know, outside their own home.
Well, the building of theatres, of course, in the 19th century did not take women into account, did it? And to this day, you can see it at the intervals of plays, women having to queue up, while men are just peeing all over the place.
Just one bog and a tannoy bellowing. You've got 1 minute till the, till view from a bridge starts, and you've got a bladder the size of a spaceship, and then you just do it on the seat and cry, and go back with a wet bottom on the night bus.
That's the title of your autobiography already. Bottom on the night bus. I love it. Anyway, next question. What can you catch from a lavatory seat?
A tennis ball. If you position it right so that they're just serving through a slightly open window, yeah, you can just get it.
Very good.
Lob it through.
Nothing.
Nothing. No, that's not right. It's so not right, you get a claxon.
Something.
Not good enough. Everything's not right, over. There are quite a few diseases.
Gonorrhea.
Syphilis.
Is it the crabs? Is it the tiny crabs?
There are a number that are very much known to be caught. Hepatitis, dysentery, fungal infections, puerperal fever, viral gastroenteritis. But the only way you catch it from the loo seat is from the loo seat to your hand to what is nicely known as a soft entry point. Which tends to be the nose or the mouth.
Right.
So as long as you wash your hands, you're perfectly safe. You don't get it through the thighs and bottom.
Yes, that would be weird.
That would be weird.
Surely the bottom is something of a soft entrance.
It is. Unless you're doing it very, very wrong, it should be hovering over a nice hole in between the seat.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you
you-
just stand up. I tend to slide off on.
Do you? I advise you from now on not to.
That is why they have a gap under the door.
So your
What I
feet
do-
can go through.
What I do is...
That's brilliant. So you leave all your doings and then get out with the door locked. What's happened there?
Oh, my God, he didn't even flush it. I don't need to flush it. It will not unlock the door. Whoosh! And sometimes, if you time
Don't
it
you
right...
catch your testicles
as they go it's a sort of a reverse limbo. You pull them in like a sumo.
All right,
What you
okay.
do is you time it right so that when the fella or the lady is mopping the floor, I slip out from under the door. It's like the curling. And then somebody opens the door all the way down. It's what are you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine. And then as you're moving, it pulls your trousers up.
That should be an Olympic category, I
It
guess.
should be an Olympic category. That is
excellent.
superb.
Never do it on the ice, though. Never.
Those of us who use lavatories in a more, shall we say, normal, usual, conventional way, tend not to do that. We tend to keep the
That's
soft entry points of our bottoms.
That is why I'm riddled with disease.
Yes, would explain it. Yeah, absolutely. But who is responsible for the myth that you can catch sexually transmitted diseases from lavatory seats?
Brian Blessed.
Yes! No, I don't think it. My soft entrance has been violated! Yes! I can't believe it! It's hairier than the rest of me!
So who put it? My grandmother, I think.
Your grandmother
Will it
made
be
that.
a pharmaceutical company with profits to be made?
No, it's actually doctors.
Oh.
Doctors suggested that you
I love
could
that
catch
show.
it. They suggested you could catch it from lavatory seats.
There's something very, very wrong with her. I think she's past hope.
Is it a she or a he? It's very hard to tell.
The
It's
problem
Tilda
is,
Swinton.
It's...
It's beautiful Tilda Swinton with gangrene of the upper
Yes.
rib.
head is much too small for your body.
That's not a usual... It's not a usual soft opening part that he's poking his tube into. I don't know what he's draining it, presumably.
He's harvesting tit juice.
He's harvesting
Dangerous tit
No, it was doctors. Doctors suggested it because they thought it would make more people come forward with STDs because they would be less embarrassed to say they caught it from a lavatory seat than that they caught it from a horse, strumpet, harlot.
Or parents.
Tanesco, or parent.
This is
Parent? Don't make me repeat things without thinking. It's all wrong.
This is a thing that's happened to me. I'll share because I've been
All right.
amongst friends. I went to the doctor, had terrible, like a sort of a, it was almost like welts in a sort of a.
Did you say welts?
Welts.
Welts.
It was a red.
No, welts with a T, not with a K.
I think you said welts.
There was some. There was a welts. Oh, I was bothered by cockneys. And all the time, I chimney sweeps around, feed the birds. Went to the doctor, and I thought I've got some sort of.
Yeah.
Went into the doctor, he went, pants are too tight. So he said,
You had your Spanx on, that was why.
So you were kidding yourself that you were a medium, and in fact you were an extra, extra large. I've done it. I've been there. And you do get welts. You get awful webbing marks. You get
Webbing?
Yeah, well, the you know the webbing of the.
You need to just loosen that
elasticated-
banana hammock and let it
I went for the larger pant, and since trouble-free.
It's been simple. Yep, I know. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. So there you are. Now, can you finish these real suggestions from agony aunts? Here they are. There is no more harm in a kiss than...
Shaving a monkey and pretending it's a woman.
I don't know where that's coming from or where it's going.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Is it the common cold?
It's actually a loaded revolver.
Oh.
It's from Ali Sloper's Half Holiday of 1911. Next one, kidney troubles, coughs, colds, toothache and neuralgia, diarrhea and stomach catarrh are frequently brought on by...
Exposing one of your soft entrances Private convenience. I tell you, it's true.
Troubles, coughs, colds, toothache and neuralgia, diarrhea and stomach tar, frequently brought on by paddling, rowing.
Paddling is the right idea, yes. Bizarrely. It's Mother and Home, 1910. And finally, if your friend is too fat, she should...
Try presenting Bake Off. I would say not live in glass houses.
This is a very strange 1928 cure for obesity, which is she should try doing rolling exercises on the floor.
For the amusement of the family.
They're all collected in a book, Never Kiss a Man in a Canoe, Words of Wisdom from the Golden Age of Agony Aunts by Tanith Carey. We've collected them all for your pleasure and enjoyment. Now, ladies should be covering your ears, because you're very sensitive, I know. Can you name an Anglo-Saxon swear word?
I would say...
We've covered all bases
In for
there.
a penny. Gobbler is Anglo-Saxon.
It's also a delightful wading bird. The amount of times Bill Oddie's gone after a knob gobbler.
He does spend a lot of time on Hampstead Heath, it's certainly true. That's where he comes from.
Ooh, look at the plumage on that knob gobbler. This isn't rude. It's a, it's a type of bird. You know, who wouldn't want to stroke a knob gobbler?
But no, you see, the fact is, we have no knowledge whatsoever of Anglo-Saxon swearing, because the only Saxons we know of are those who wrote. And those who wrote were in holy orders and tended not to swear.
We must
But
have
we
been
have no
swear
evidence
words.
for them. But we do know that Vikings swore, because we actually know there's a particular word, and this is rasragar. It's such an appalling word that if one Viking called another Viking rasragar, the Viking who was called it would be entitled to kill the man who called him that. And indeed, if he didn't try and kill him, he would be expelled from the community, and indeed be proved to be a rasragar. I've been told what rasragar means, but I just cannot tell you.
Oh. Is it?
I just can't.
Is it rasragar?
Rasragar.
Is it to do with colouring?
I just can't. My
Russet
mind
beard or
has got
something.
the idea of it in its head, and I
He
will
must
never be
tell
the
us what
same
he
again. I
thinks.
don't.
I think that we all want to know,
Rasragar.
right?
No. Anyway, the fact is there are no known Anglo-Saxon swear words in the sense that Anglo-Saxon peoples use them. And now, hold your horses, ladies. Fingers on buzzers, gentlemen, because it's time for a bit of general ignorance. Right, what did Lady Godiva do?
Lady.
Yes.
Well, of course, she rode naked through the town because she wanted to... I forget what was it she doing it for. She wanted... No.
Whoa. Which town was it that she didn't ride naked through?
Birmingham.
Coventry is the one that people
Lady
suppose that
Coventry,
she
yeah.
owned Coventry, interestingly.
Did she?
Yeah, she owned it. And the first story of her riding naked is the early 13th century. But actually, that's some 200 years after she lived. And this story was a fellow called Roger of Wendover, who was a notoriously unreliable purveyor of anecdotes and gossip. In fact, the story that he gave was that her husband, who was the Earl of Mercia, had put large taxes on the citizens of Coventry. And she thought this was unfair, and she said, you must get rid of these taxes. He said, I'll do it if you ride naked through Coventry. And so she thought, all right, I like the people of Coventry, I'll ride naked. And they all obediently closed their eyes. But there's no evidence for any of this. All this is later.
Do you think that would work today if we suggested that to Boris Johnson if we rode naked through the
Through
town?
the
We could
streets of
stop paying our taxes.
The bicycle on a Boris bike through the streets.
Naked.
The story of Lady Godiva is horseshit, frankly. So what did Mary Magdalene do for a living? Mary Magdalene, what did she do for a living?
Are we dare?
I just want to hear that again because
Yeah.
I'm so in the groove with that shit.
Yeah.
She was a sex worker.
A sex worker, prostitute.
We call them sex workers now.
Sex workers, they are called sex
They're
workers.
sex workers. not prostitutes.
No, inasmuch as we know anything about her or anything about anybody in the Bibble.
She's got jaundice, that's what we know about her.
I think we've taken faces from some sort of CNE school rendering of her. But she's mentioned in each of the four Gospels, Mary Magdalene, and not one of them says she was a prostitute or even a sinner. At some point, she became confused with two other women in the Bible, Mary, the sister of Martha, and the unnamed sinner from Luke's Gospel, Gospel, both of whom washed Jesus' feet with hair, if you remember. In the 6th century, Pope Gregory the Great made this confusion official by declaring in a sermon that these three characters are the same person. This remained the official line for over 1,000 years until the Catholic Church finally ruled that Mary Magdalene was not the penitent sinner in 1969. And the whole world went, ooh.
Oh, I've been calling her a slag for 2,000 years.
Can I just ask, right? I'm no art historian, but why is there a severed baby's head with nobody attached? Just
It's like a flying tray with a head on it, isn't it?
just the wing ears.
You will get these in Baroque paintings, putti, as they're called.
But how do we know that that is a cherub and not just like a fat-faced bird? That's a knob gobbler. That's what that is.
Well, the Baroque did go rather crazy, and there's no real excuse for it. It's overdone, to say the least. But the one thing that we know about Mary Magdalene is that she wasn't a prostitute. What happens 9 months after a blackout?
Many babies. No.
You've been doing so well. Is it the power company finally give you the cheque for a refund?
That's probably right. Yes, you finally get your refund. No, there is no evidence, although it is a commonly held belief, absolutely no evidence whatsoever from demographers and other such people that this is true. There was a famous 1965 blackout in New York, and everybody said 9 months later, including the New York Times, that there was a sharp increase of births. But they then, after it was proved to be inaccurate, issued an acknowledgement that they had made a mistake.
I mean, lights do go out every night. I mean, it's not like we're permanently
Precisely.
sort of spotlights.
No.
So it's such a rare thing. God, the lights are fine off. We can have sex.
Oh, telly's not working. Go on, then. I always go to the main fuse box. Sorry, love.
Yeah.
Clever.
I like he's gone.
That's your foreplay, is it?
Clever. No, there is no evidence that people have more sex during a power cut. So, not with a boom, but a whimper. We come to the scores. Oh, my good night. Well, we're going to start in last place, and I'm sorry to say, because of her filthy mouth, in last place with -48, it's Sue Perkins. Hardly less Anglo-Saxon with -28 is Kathy Ladd.
Thank you.
And not losing again with -8, it's Alan Davis. Second place, you must be very proud. It only means there's one winner. With +2, Ross Noble. All what's left for me to do is to thank Cathy, Sue, Ross and Alan, and I leave you with the last words of former British Prime Minister Pitt the Younger. I think I could eat one of Bellamy's meat pies. What greater last words could you ever have? Good night.